Hello everyone, I am Surrenderlot Reviews, and I'm back, and I'm ready to look at some more Generation 1 Transformers. But before I get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and if I can't convince you, perhaps this picture of my kitten will convince you. And, random fact about my cat society is that all the citizens have been given watches with their dear leader's face on it. But without further ado, let's get into this! So, the first episode we're gonna look at is City of Steel, where Megatron tries to remake New York City into his own image. But without further ado, let's get into this! So, the episode starts out with trouble in New York City. And by trouble, I really mean this here.
The Empire State Building is sinking!
But luckily, the Autobots are on the scene to put an end to Megatron's hostile takeover of New York City. But unfortunately, that is all part of Megatron's plan.
Optimus Prime is directly overhead.
Then dig you fall down. I've severed your motor relays, Prime. Welcome to the wonderful world of suspended animation.
And with Optimus Prime out of the way, Megatron introduces Megatron Tower, and he threatens the Autobots to get out of his new hostile takeover of New York City or else. And while Megatron has Optimus Prime, he decides to have Optimus Prime disassembled by Hook. And the Constructicons go and use Optimus Prime's parts for very creative means. But luckily, the Autobots manage to infiltrate Megatron's headquarters by going under the sewer system of New York. And one of the things that the Constructicons make from Optimus Prime is, well, a giant crocodile. But luckily, the Autobots managed to at least send the giant crocodile back a bit. And they also managed to find Optimus Prime. And they managed to come to this realization about the giant crocodile thing.
Thanks, Ratchet. Hook disassembled me, but he wasn't very neat. I can sense the presence of my legs. They're nearby.
Do you think you could activate them from here?
I'll try.
There they are! Wait a minute, that's why my sensors picked up Prime behind me. It was because a part of him was the Alligator-Con!
But luckily, the Autobots managed to wrestle the alligator into becoming Optimus Prime's chest and left arm. And also, the other Autobots figure out that Optimus Prime's right arm is actually being used as a turret by the Decepticons. Which, I will say, that's a surprisingly good use for, your enemy commander's right arm. Just, use it as a turret for my surprisingly hostile takeover of an entire city. And other creations that the Constructicons just so happen to have made include battle taxis and some turrets that are placed in pretty inopportune moments, which Prime does a really good job of disabling. Like, he does a really good job. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime, Ratchet, and Ironhide try to climb the tower to get to Optimus Prime's arm, but the Seekers try to ruin their day until this here happens.
Starscream, we're damaged! We gotta land! Cowardly weaklings! I'll crush them like tinfoil!
Wanna bet? Say uncle, or I'll shove your nose in your afterburner! Gee, I didn't know Decepticons had uncles!
Anyways, so the Constructicons transform into Devastator and climb the tower, and I have this pretty cool shot that I'm definitely going to be using as my thumbnail. And Bumblebee and Spike also managed to destroy the console that was controlling Optimus Prime's arm, and Optimus Prime takes advantage of this opportunity and uses that to defeat Devastator. And the Decepticons retreat, and the Autobots save New York City. And overall, I will say that City of Steel is a good episode, and I highly recommend it. I will say that there are some parts that kind of feel more or less like a blink and you'll miss it, and kind of don't really feel relevant, if I'm being perfectly honest. But other than that, I really liked the episode, and I liked the concept of how Optimus Prime was disassembled by the Decepticons, and how the Autobots had to go and find pieces of him just to build him back up. And I also liked the part where Devastator was just climbing that tower like King Kong. I thought that was cool. But without further ado, on to the next episode, which is Desertion of the Dinobots, parts 1 and 2, where the Dinobots just decide to go off and do their own thing on Cybertron. But without further ado, let's get into this. So, the episode starts out with the Decepticons attacking an experimental jet that the Autobots are experimenting with, and then they go attack a facility for some plans. But luckily, the Autobots are there and they put a stop to them. And that's how the scene quite literally ends. Anyways, so Bumblebee spots some Decepticons at an airport, and the Autobots, unable to go to that airport, have to call upon the Dinobots. But there's some trouble with the Dinobots.
Job for you.
Me, Grimlock, no like orders.
Me, Slag, no like anything.
We really need your help. Why won't you give us a hand?
Me don't know why not. So we help. This time.
I've got to work on their personality circuits.
Anyways, so the Dinobots go to the airport and they absolutely decimate the Decepticons. Like, they are thorough about it. There are no survivors of the Decepticons. And the Decepticons retreat, but not before absolutely causing a lot of destruction, which the Autobots are, of course, going to have to fix. Meanwhile, with the Decepticons...
Soundwave, explain this.
Ravage detected. Reason unknown.
Rumble, what do you think you're doing?
Megatron, I can't stop myself.
I am going to get to the bottom of this.
But the Autobots are also facing some drama, with the Dinobots refusing to follow their orders and only wanting to do their own thing, as usual.
The Decepticons are on the rampage again. Dinobots, transform!
No! Dinobots, no go! Me, Grimlock, no take orders. Never!
Yes, no! Me, Slag, agree! Me, Swoop, no listen to Optimus Prime! Grimlock, our leader!
Yes, Dinobots follow Grimlock.
Anyways, so the Decepticons attack a power plant, but luckily the Autobots are there to stop them. And then this here happens.
It's the Autobot! The Autobot!
Too bad! He's blown his vocal components. I guess that makes me the new leader!
Some liquid nitrogen will cool him off. Uh-oh, my hand won't retract. Fortunately, I can still become invisible. Now, how did he know I was there?
Ravage.
Thanks for transforming.
My sound and light show will mix him up. Hey, what gives?
I do!
Shift or be smashed!
Go ahead, leader. Do something.
If only to spite you.
But luckily, Preceptor just so happens to have figured out what is causing this to both the Autobots and the Decepticons.
Fortunately, I am stuck in microscope mode, and I think I have deduced the problem. After millions of years of being exposed to Earth's atmosphere, an element that's essential to our mechanical operation is deteriorating.
Then we must replace it.
If only we could. The element is cybertonium, and it doesn't exist on Earth.
He's right. The only place to get the cybertonium is on Cybertron.
Which, boy, the Autobots and Decepticons didn't really show any signs of degradation or, the cybertonium being degraded, at all. I mean, they only had, a 4 million year long nap, so I'm sure at some point, right about now, they would have shown some signs of degradation. But luckily, for the Autobots, the Dinobots do not really need any cybertonium to do their jobs, so they go ask the Dinobots for help, and the Dinobots get across the space bridge. But this here happens as soon as they get across.
Come in, Grimlock. Who called my name? Who called Grimlock on Cybertron?
Cybertron? You didn't have to go to Cybertron. You better get back while the space bridge is still open.
Grimlock, no come back. Dinobots never ever get back to bossy Autobots.
So, with how rude Grimlock is being, the Autobots send Spike and Carly to at least go talk some sense into the Dinobots. And they get to Cybertron, and the episode ends on a cliffhanger. And overall, for Desertion of the Dinobots, Part 1, I'm gonna say that half of this episode kind of feels pointless, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, the other half certainly had a lot to do with the plot, but the first half kind of just didn't. I mean, think of it like this. I could just cut out the first half and nothing would change. And I think a good starting point would have actually been the second half of the episode. And we could have gotten, more time with the Dinobots on Cybertron. That would have been pretty cool. But other than that, I think that the second half of the episode is good. The first half feels pointless, and that's all I really have to say. But without further ado, on to the next episode, which is Desertion of the Dinobots Part 2, where we conclude this two-parter. Without further ado, let's get into this! So, the episode starts out with Spike and Carly giving Shockwave the slip. But in the process of getting away from Shockwave, Carly ends up spraining her ankle, so Spike has to carry her to Wheeljack's workshop. And they manage to get to Wheeljack's workshop, but unfortunately something else is there with them. And this other person that is with them, as it turns out, is actually Swoop, who is not with the rest of the Dinobots. And as Swoop so kindly explains to us,
when us Dinobots come, us capture Decepticon, guards come, big fight. Soon other Dinobots captured, but me get away. Other Dinobots taken to Cybertonium pits. Decepticons still look for Swoop.
So our heroes decide to go break the Dinobots out, but unfortunately, they accidentally triggered one of the traps, which ended up taking out one of Swoop's wings, which kinda makes flying a little bit difficult, and avoiding traps that look like they're part of a futuristic Indiana Jones-style temple, also a little bit difficult. And so our heroes end up in a room. And in this room, we get a little bit of a history lesson.
Millions of years ago, Cybertron was a planet of peace. Until the Decepticons, lusting for power, began a terrible war, not designed for combat. The Autobots were overwhelmed and subjugated by their evil opponents. While many Autobots fled Cybertron, a few valiant survivors devised new tactics and launched a counteroffensive on their arch foes. And thus began a terrible series of wars. Many times, both sides have claimed victory. But this has been short-lived, for the Autobots have overthrown Decepticon tyrants. And likewise, Decepticon treachery has toppled many a peaceful Autobot ruler. And to this day, the war rages on.
Okay, I feel like this is a good time for me to bring this up, but a lot of this episode does feel like filler, like this history lesson here. It's kind of one of those, I could literally remove this seed here, and absolutely nothing would change. I mean, think of it like this. Our friends would still get captured and forced to go to the Cybertronian mines, except it would be faster, and like I said for the first episode, I feel like this episode, and this two-parter in general, should have actually been one episode, because a lot of what these two episodes have is filler. And I quite literally did not mention a lot of things about this episode, despite the fact that I'm at the 16-minute mark, and the reason why is just due to the fact that a lot of it's just filler. Anyways, so our friends get captured, and they are sent to the Cybertronian mines, and they also find the Dinobots there and find out that the Dinobots have been reprogrammed. So Carly basically reprograms them back, and they have a bit of a plan to do, well, this here.
No! Me hate you!
Well, I'm not nuts about you either!
Me not do what you say!
You lumpy bag of bolts, you can't do anything!
Keep working down there! Dinobot no work with human! Shockwave, the Dinobots are refusing to work with the humans!
Then remove the humans! We need that Cybertonium immediately!
And so, our heroes manage to get to the space bridge, and they manage to get back home, along with a bunch of Cybertonium, and the Autobots are all repaired, and all is square between Optimus Prime and Grimlock, and the episode ends. And overall, like I said, Desertion of the Dinobots is actually an episode I think really should have just been one episode, because in both parts, there's a lot of parts of it that just are filler. Like, for Desertion of the Dinobots Part 1, a lot of what I mentioned was quite literally just action sequence, action sequence, action sequence, and it didn't get until, like, the second half before things actually progressed in the plot. And in Desertion of the Dinobots Part 2, there were a lot of stuff I left out because, like I said, again, most of it was filler. And things that were filler were like Carly magically getting better. I didn't feel like mentioning that until now because it just was not worth me mentioning at all. And also it made it so that Carly spraining her ankle barely changed the plot at all. And I will say that, yeah, a lot of scenes could have been cut, and the episode probably would have just flowed a lot better. But other than that, I will say that the episodes are still good, just not as good as, like, City of Steel, where it is paced a lot better, and, you know, makes kind of 20 minutes actually feel a lot longer. But I mean that in a good way for City of Steel. But overall, I think with that, that's gonna do it for today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.